Going back to the paragraph alignment, just want to let you know that you can also add left to left align. You could say right as an attribute of the property. You can also say justify to full justify. That means make the margins roughly even. And I'll leave it center for now. Now remember, I was saying that between these paragraphs, simply putting in carriage returns will not change the document. So you may be asking, how can I insert carriage returns or breaking space between two paragraphs? Let's say I want more than the default. Well, we have something special called break, and just put br/br. So I'm going to copy this several times so we can see the effects. And notice that I don't have to put these on separate lines. I can just put the starting tag and the ending tag all on the same line many times on the same line. And so I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces plus the space that occurs between the two paragraphs naturally. So I'll save this. I'll go back to Internet Explorer and I'll refresh. And you'll see that now several lines of space appear between the paragraph. And I'll just get rid of 2 of these. Well, yeah, I'll just leave 2 on the same line, 2 breaks. Now, let's say I had a poem, and I wanted that poem to be formatted correctly. There's what's called the span tag, and the span and /span. And what that tag does is that I can type text in between that tag and it will look just as I've typed it. Oh, I apologize. I'll cover span maybe later, but pre is that particular tag. Pre. And what that is that we can use the prefix. We can just enter in the text the way we want it to look. So let's say I said roses. Example of poem. Roses are red. Violets are blue. You can learn HTML in about in a minute or 2. And I'll save that. Now let's look at it inside our browser. And you see that uses a default font, and it keeps the carriage returns, and it keeps the formatting of each of the lines, that each line is kept to just a few words per line, just as is typed there. And right now this is pretty hard to read this code, and since our HTML is not affected other than in these pre-tags by the spacing between these tags, we can just insert spaces just for our own use, and it won't affect our web page. And so we can take a look at some other examples of what's called these headings. Remember, in our paint, here we have a heading, and not the main heading, but heading text for a paragraph or a group of paragraphs. Here, 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 and here. Notice how each one are different sizes, as you have the equal points have equal size text, and if it's a sub point, it would have generally would have smaller text. And we have an option of how to create these headers, and what we can do is use the H1 or H6, H1 through H6 format. And I'll show you these tags. For example, we can do H1, and we can say this is H1, and we can have an ending tag H1, and also we can have we could have H2, H3, H4, H5, H6, and I'll show you. I'll tell you what, I'll just copy this, and then I'll just apply each of those different tags. So I'm pasting these, and I'm going to just manually go in and change these to H2. I'm going to change this to H3. I'm going to change this to H4. And I'm going to change this to H5. And then I'm going to add one more, and I'm going to call that H6. And we'll save. Now I'll go back to, now let's take a look at it by going back to our browser, and we'll just refresh, and it'll show. Notice that H1 is the biggest type of heading that we can possibly have, and H1 would be the smallest size text that we could possibly have.